Hello there, everyone who's watching or who may not be watching yet, but is watching it on the replay. For those who have seen me come live before, you'll know that the first minute or so, we're just going to be spending kind of getting everything all lined up for those folks who are watching us in Facebook land and other places. So if you'll bear with me, not to be rude and to not give you the fullness of my attention, but I am just going to share the link for people who might want to watch us on Facebook so that they're able to get in and watch what we're going to talk about today. Which today we're going to talk a little bit, amongst other things, about the aftermath of the eclipse. So I hope that you're ready to have that conversation. And I do hope you treat it like a conversation. As a matter of fact, over here in the chat window, you can share your comments with me about anything and everything that we're going to talk about today. Just a couple of orders of business, which are, I've been offering things on sliding scale rates for my consultations. That's all going to come to a close on the 31st of October. I know, spooky, woo, but that kind of ties in with a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. No, not Halloween, but spookiness. And we're going to get into that here in just a moment. But if you want to take advantage of sliding scale rates on my astrological services, you can visit the link. I'm going to type over here in the chat window. I thought I had it all saved for us. Pardon me for being rude. Okay, and we will make sure that we save that so I don't have to type it next time. But you can go there, schedule in a consultation with me at sliding scale rates, which start at $108. Okay, so thanks a lot for tuning in and for watching today. You may see my screen bounce up and down. I'm on my laptop. I will warn you about that ahead of time. Please feel free to say hello if you're watching. It's a lonely world in the world of being a YouTube creator, broadcaster live on YouTube, because a lot of you sit there and watch and you don't say anything, but we want to hear your voice. I may not be able to answer everybody's questions. And as you can hear from my voice, I may not be able to talk all day long either, because as you can hear, my throat's feeling just a little bit strained. But as long as I don't talk too loud, we should be okay. And you're going, I thought we were going to talk about the eclipse, and we are. We are. You're here, right? You're here. The eclipse has passed, and you're here. That must mean something. Well, number one, it means that the eclipse wasn't the end of the world because you're still here. Okay. And that's something I want to just kind of talk about just briefly. Hello, Andrew. Is that people get all spooked about eclipses and all sorts of other astrological transits. But really, sure, things can be challenging from time to time, but it's all for you to grow and for you to stay strong. And at the end of the day, if you go through transits that are really intense and you're still here, what does that do? It builds your stability, right? It helps to make you stronger. It helps to make you more whole. And this does tune in or tie in, I should say, to a lot of what I want to talk about today, which is this lunar eclipse brought themes to the surface surrounding, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I'm feeling frozen. I feel like I need to do something, but I don't know what to do. And a lot of people were having that. A lot of people were having that fear. A lot of people were having that concern in one area of their life or another. There was this nervous energy of feeling that one needed to do something, that one needed to change something. But let's face it, when we're dealing with times that are transformational, and when those times are transformational on the global scale, it gets to be a little bit frightening in terms of what you're meant to do, what you should do, how you should do it. And the more we begin to think on all of those things, the more confusing the path ahead ultimately becomes. So a key theme with this particular eclipse is, what do you want to identify with going forward? Do you want to identify with the fear of change, right? Because let's face it, I'm not going to quote a cheesy song from the 70s, which talks about, the Reaper and how we shouldn't be afraid and all sorts of things like that. Hello, Avanti, how are you? But, really, it's true. It's true. Change happens every single day. You take a deep breath in, don't you? Right? Or you take a breath in at the very least. You exhale, don't you? Every single moment you're being born and you're dying over and over and over again. But yet this thing, change, is something we fear like nothing else. Like nothing else, and when it's going on globally and we're seeing all sorts of scary things in the media, well, then it's a sure sign to turn off your television set. Really, that's a large part of it. But what will happen if I turn off my television set? Well, you'll probably feel a lot more free. You'll probably have less anxiety in your life. And you know what? You'll probably be subject to less lies that are being pumped in your direction, right? Because let's face it, media has an agenda. It always has an agenda on one level or another, whether you know it does or not, because the people who advertise through media or who advertise with the media that you watch, they have an agenda. Okay, they want to see certain things being created. And so we all tend to watch the news and gravitate towards our favorite news source or least favorite news sources that we stay away from, when in actuality, we're going to be getting a certain level of slant from the media that we're watching. Okay, so that's one angle on it. That's one angle on it. But another angle on it is when we focus on fear. When we focus on fear, people who focus on fear are more easily able to be controlled. It's easy to control people when they're focusing on fear because they feel like fear is the only thing that they are able to pay even the slightest degree of attention to, right? And if you're so focused on fear, then no change happens other than changes that other people want to kind of make happen for you, right? And it's not easy when you're confronted with things that are really scary, like, being able to put food on the table for your family, having a place to live, things along those lines. It's not easy. It's not easy to not give into the fear. It's not easy to not let anxiety control you. But because this eclipse had a connection with a lot of planets, we had Sun, we had Mercury, we had Mars, all in Swati Nakshatra. That's an awful lot of nervous energy, but it's also a lot of independent energy. And the moon was in close proximity to Jupiter in Bharani Nakshatra. And with Venus's present position and with Jupiter transiting Bharani, there was a lot there. Beneath the surface, above the surface, whichever level you want to look at it, around change, transformation, fear of letting go, but recognizing that if you let go of that thing that you fear most, then you're probably going to have a greater level of freedom. But it's hard to trust that. It's hard to trust that. We also had an aspect to the lunar eclipse from Saturn in Shatabisha Nakshatra. Now, Shatabisha Nakshatra, people often identify as being connected to the 100 healers and bringing a healing crisis to the surface. And yes, to a degree, a certain degree of calamity or difficulty, things along those lines. But equally, there's a great level of determination connected with that nakshatra. There's a great level of I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission connected with that nakshatra, a reluctant mission, a mission that we feel we have to fulfill, but we're not sure that we want to fulfill. But why do we feel that we don't want to fulfill it? Well, maybe we're feeling stuck. Maybe we're feeling somewhat hamstrung by our decisions, concerned about making the wrong decisions, tired of going through the struggle that we all face on a daily basis. It's enough to make anyone exhausted. It really is. It really is. But you have a choice. And this was the choice that the eclipse was bringing, the lunar eclipse at least, was bringing to the surface for a lot of individuals, which is, which path do you want to choose going forward? Do you want to choose the path that's connected to your pain, that's connected to your fear, that's, concerned about what's going to happen? Or do you want to connect with what you know to be right? You want to connect with what you know to be right and take action from there to be dharmic, which is the purpose of Ashwini Nakshatra. We only get stuck and confused when Ashwini Nakshatra is present because we don't know which direction to go in. We don't know what's right. It's hard to tune into our heart at those moments because we're confused. And the more you feel confused, the more you are being controlled by fear, the less able you are to act. So much can happen at those moments in the world. So much can happen. You have a choice to be awake right now. You have a choice to be aware. It's a matter of whether you're choosing it or not. Now, I know what you're saying. Life is hard, right? What's going to happen if this happens? We can focus on that. We can focus on that if we want to. To be quite honest, that's why many people seek astrologers. But to be quite honest, astrology really just shows you your karmic patterns, right? It doesn't show you where your heart is, right? I'm going to say that again. Astrology only shows you your karmic patterns. Prediction is never 100% accurate. Never. Never in a million years, right? So astrology shows the patterns that are coming to the surface at any given moment in time. You still get to make the choices. So at this present moment in time, sure, there's a lot of fear that's there. There's a lot of global change that's going on. There are a lot of things that we don't want to see happen in the world. There's people starving. There's people dying. There's people losing their livelihoods. But in the midst of that, we can just let it all come toppling in on us, or we can decide what it is that we want to create going forward. I know the side that I would rather participate in, right? And I hope you do as well. Share over here in the comment section. Let me know which side of that energy you're on. I think I know what I'm going to hear from people anyway, but I know that some of you are there watching. Don't be like, sitting there being quiet. I want to see what you have to say with this. So in the midst of all of this, we're all dealing not just with uncertainty in terms of what's going to happen in the world. We're also dealing with a lot of financial instability in the world. Okay, people, as I was saying, people are losing their livelihoods. It's enough to make people really scared. When you have a family, this becomes even more intense. I know I've been through my own thing with it recently. I know like loads of other people who have. Perhaps we all keep a little more quiet than we should. And perhaps if we shared our voices, people might actually understand what we're going through and actually be able to help. And it's okay to do that. It is okay to share what you're going through. It's okay. People feel ashamed. You feel like, they're letting people down, or they're somehow less of a human because they're going through hardship. You're never less of a human because you're going through hardship. You're more human if you're able to express your vulnerability and be clear about what you're going through. So don't ever be afraid to do that with me or with anybody else, for that matter. But as I was saying, we're dealing with a lot of instability on the global scale, and especially financially. So what do we do during those times? What do we do, and what can we do? The world around you will always be changing. Economies will always rise and fall. If your prosperity is based only on what's going on out there, if your stability is based only on what's going on out there, then you're going to be going like this up and down the whole time. And I hear what you're saying. How can I do anything else? You have to tap into your own personal flow of prosperity. You have to tap into your own personal path to stability, right? And those things are determined karmically by what you're here to work through. Each person's path is completely different, right? And I'm not just talking about on the external level, as I was just saying. This is important to establish inside of ourselves. We have to establish that inner stability. We have to walk the path that is beneficial for our spirit, because prosperity at the root of it means that which is beneficial for your spirit. If you're not in alignment with who you are and what you're here to do, you could have $1 million in your bank account. You're not going to feel successful. You'll feel miserable. That's why you see a lot of miserable millionaires out there. It may look to you like, oh, well, they've got it so easy. Trust me, they're not happy. They're not happy. Why do you think they do a lot of the things that they do in those particular instances, especially the ones who don't really do the best things, with what they have, is the nicest way to say it. And yeah, I'm calling them out a little bit. Okay. So with that being the case, you have to build inner prosperity. You have to build inner stability, and each person's path is different. Those things, regardless of whether you're able to earn $1 million through doing that, or able to boost your bank account, which I actually hope that you are through establishing inner stability and inner prosperity. But regardless of whether you are or not, you'll prosper, you'll be stable, you'll make it through, you'll go through these changes, you'll come out the other side, because you'll recognize that your stability and your prosperity ain't got a what to do with what's going on out there. It doesn't. Trust me. Trust me on that. Okay. And I put together a package to help you with that. And it's called Stellar Stability, because what it does is we're going to take a look at your personal path to stability and prosperity through your horoscope, hence the name Stellar Stability. Gee, who would have thought? Okay. And what it does is, over the course of 4 sessions, we're going to identify the prosperity factors in your horoscope through the first session, which is called the Prosperity Path Consultation. We're going to take a look at the best ways for you to fulfill your needs. Now, that also relates to financial needs, right? So this does, in essence, help you financially. I'm not saying it's going to help you to make $1 million. That's not what it's about. It's about helping you to prosper by helping you to find a way to get your needs met. Okay, so everybody has that happen in a different way. A lot of times that's understood through something called the Amachakaraka, right? The Amachakaraka, or the minister, the indicator of the minister, the indicator of the advisor, the one who helps you to fulfill your needs, right? Or to fulfill the needs of your own personal kingdom. That's where that comes from. The Amachakaraka is a prosperity indicator in the horoscope. You might have Mars as your Amachakaraka, which means you need to be strategic. You need to be logical in your choices. You need to keep moving. That's something that'll help you. So we'll take a look in the Prosperity Path Consultation at your Amachakaraka, nakshatra it's in. We'll also take a look at your second lord, nakshatra that it's in, where it's placed in the horoscope. In the Prosperity Path Consultation, we take a look at all of those prosperity indicators in your horoscope and come up with a plan in regards to how you can approach your own personal Personal path to prosperity. That's hard to say. It's a tongue twister. And the second session of stellar stability relates to understanding your individual karma around prosperity. What blocks you from being connected to the flow of abundance? And that way you can learn to work on those things, to be more mindful of those things. The third session is focused on your karma around stability. What keeps you from being more stable, getting beyond meeting your needs and having a truer level of stability? And again, this is not a pure financial focus. I need for that to be understood. It does help with that. It's not, something that you're going to go, oh, well, if I join this program, it'll make me a millionaire. No, that's not what we're trying to do with this. We're trying to help you to find prosperity so your needs are met. We're trying to help you to find stability so you stay strong regardless of the ups and downs. Right? Those things are first and foremost. The other stuff that happens externally is a side result of that. So your karma around stability, working on that ultimately will help you to a very deep level as well. From that particular space, we do a bit of a planner for the months ahead based on the work that we did together to help you to approach the months that are coming based upon the work that we did. You could call that more of a predictive look, but it's less of me going, this is what's going to happen to you. It's more of me going, here's the best way for you to approach this particular time based upon your horoscope. So that package is called Stellar Stability. I'm putting a link over here in the chat window. You can set up payment plans for that if you're interested and you perhaps are going, well, I can't pay it off all in one go. Payment plans are absolutely fine. You can reach out through the site to do that. You can also just type in over here too, or send me a message through YouTube. That would be okay as well. If you want to give this particular approach a try, there's also a consultation that's called the Prosperity Path Consultation. The Prosperity Path Consultation is the first consultation of the Stellar Stability Package. And we're going to put something over here in the chat window to give you a link to that. Okay. How to handle the fact that different software shows different placements. In my case, for example, the ascendant shifts. The horoscope is showing your incarnated existence. There's a part of you that exists beyond your incarnation, right? So what am I saying with that? On a certain level, it doesn't matter if you use tropical or sidereal. It doesn't matter if one is showing one Amachakaraka and the other one showing a different Amachakaraka. You can find wisdom through both of those that you can apply to your life. That's the way that I would answer that. But let's not get too heavily into that point. The main thing I want to talk to you about today, because today in the day that's post-eclipse, we are obviously on the first lunar day of the dark half of the moon called Krishna Pratipada, talking a little bit about the energy for the day, because that's important coming out of the eclipse period. Krishna Pratipada helps us to creative process. There's an experience of burning away all that doesn't fit with that. The lunar day, one of the ways that you can understand the lunar day is by recognizing that it gives you the capacity. I think my internet might have done something funny there, so I'm going to see if everybody's still here. It looks like everybody's still here. Good. The lunar day describes on a certain level the attitude with which we're approaching the day. It's a really important thing. So with Krishna Pratipada today, due to the position of Venus, because Krishna Pratipada is what's called a Nanda Tithi, and the Nanda Tithis are connected to Venus, right? And Venus is a little bit compromised at present. So it means we're approaching the day with this thing of going, I need to protect this because of a fear that I have, right? Because of something I'm recognizing, a realization that I'm having. The Karana, The karana determines on a certain level how we're going to do something, whether it's worth doing. And for today, working with the Panchanga are different factors like the nakshatra, the lunar day, what's called the karana, what's called the solar lunar yoga. Those all compose what's called the Panchanga. I use a different Panchanga than some people do. So if you're someone who regularly follows that, you might hear some different things for that. The Panchanga, the Karana for today is Kalava. Kalava is connected to Mitra. Mitra is a deity that's connected to friendships and being agreeable. Okay, so on a certain level, this is about, is this worth you either partnering with somebody else or you partnering with yourself? Are you behind yourself 100% in your actions? Some days it feels like you're not. Some days it feels like you are. On those days that you're not, it may be hard for you to feel like it's worth putting your energy into something. Now, the solar lunar yoga determines on a certain level how we can work or how the day's energy resolves, and that's Vyatipata. Vyatipata, and please pardon if my pronunciation is not so great, is calamity. So we can focus on, okay, well, there's a calamity today. That's not the focus. The idea is, in the midst of this calamity, in the midst of the difficulty, who are you? What do you want to focus on? How do you want to move through it? We're only confused about what's going on around us because we're confused in here. Know yourself in here, and the rest all begins to resolve itself. So post-eclipse, we're confronting this energy today that goes, are you ready? Are you ready to move forward? Are you ready for a different way? And that's what I want to ask you, if you're ready for a different way. So everybody can share with me over in the chat window. Don't be concerned about how cheesy it may sound or whether somebody will see it or whether somebody will judge it. Come on, interact over here, and share with me whether or not you feel like you're ready for the months ahead. Okay, or any other questions that you may have. I'm not here to answer questions about your horoscope, though, just so you know, right? So again, while you're perhaps considering sharing things over in the chat window, there's a brand new package. It's called Stellar Stability. It's a focus to you building stability that's much more unshakable by global circumstances, right? And I'm going to give you the link to that over here in the chat window while I'm waiting to see if anybody has any questions. If you would like a brief version of that, like a tester, right? There's also the Prosperity Path consultation. I'm going to type that over here in the chat window too. Both of those are available at sliding scale rates today, but my sliding scale rates on things are going to end on Tuesday, and then we're going to be back up to normal prices, mainly because I have to. Okay. And if you just want to schedule in a regular session with me, of course, that's always possible too. I'll put that over in the chat window before I read some things that people are posting here in the questions section. How can we make the most of the exalted Taurus moon part of yesterday's eclipse? That's a good question. So understanding what the moon is all about. The moon is our consciousness. It's manas, or our sensory mind, okay? And when the moon is strong, it means that we're more stable in our emotions. It doesn't mean we're perfect. Doesn't mean we don't feel fear. Doesn't mean that we're not, aware of the difficulties, or even maybe that we don't feel a little bit of anxiety. It just means that we're more apt to see the reality of things rather than to misperceive things based upon our emotional ups and downs. That's why the moon is exalted in Taurus, because it makes us emotionally stable. It makes us emotionally centered and emotionally strong. It makes us feel secure inside of ourselves when the world promises us no security, right? So the way you can make the most of that part of yesterday's eclipse is by not going with your pain. Pain is important. It alerts us that something's wrong, that something needs to change. But we go through pain, we go through suffering or anxiety because it's there as an alert. It's there to alert us that something needs to change. If we then don't change anything, but just sit with the anxiety or sit with the fear, that's not really going to serve anything. So when the moon's exalted and we're dealing with that energy, we're generally more able to be stable during those times and less impacted by the emotional ups and downs that we might otherwise experience. I'll give people another second or so to leave a question over in the chat window. As you can hear, I'm kind of getting a little bit raspy throated as well. Hey, you know something too? If you want to join us, I started a course on the nakshatras a couple of weeks back. We're on the 3rd class for it. That is called Cosmos and Consciousness, right? If you do a Google search for Cosmos and Consciousness, Michael Reed Astrology, you'll see module 1 listed there. You can still register for that. I'm making this the last week that people can register for that course, though. If you want to join us, you really should join the class tonight, because after tonight, you're not going to be able to join the course. It's a 16-week first module of a larger webinar course. I'll put a little bit over here in the chat window for that too. You can still join tonight if you want to, but after tonight, we're going to be closing down registration. But you can learn so much through the nakshatras in that particular way, and so much about the moon and how the nakshatras are here to help us. So in sharing and summarizing what I've been wanting to give you to take away today is it's easy to get caught up in fear. Okay, so let me just kind of go into this. So I'm going to kind of make a mental bookmark. It's easy to get caught up in fear. M. Ramaswamy. Myself, I do Vedic astrology using the tropical zodiac, but with sidereal nakshatras. There are several other astrologers who do that. I am not here to say one approach is right, the other approach is wrong. It'd be the same thing as saying one religion is right and another religion is wrong. I use it because I have found it gives a greater level of accuracy using traditional Vedic astrology techniques. And so I've stuck with it since then, because helping my clients is ultimately what's most important to me at the end of the day. And there's even some evidence floating around out there that even around the time of what are called the Saptarishi Nadis, that there may have been the use of a tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras in place. So yes, you're right. From a sidereal astrology perspective, the moon was in Aries. From the tropical astrology perspective, the moon was in Taurus. What we're dealing with the zodiac are the limbs of Vishnu as Kalapurusha, or time personified, right? So with that being the case, the limbs of Vishnu, the rashis, the signs, are unconscious of the fact that they're Vishnu. So if we understand that, what we've got going on with the signs is an expression of consciousness, right? And our consciousness is very multifaceted. It's exceptionally multifaceted and multidimensional. To say our consciousness is one-dimensional and can only be one way is to miss the point in astrology, which is why I'm a complete believer that people should never argue over which zodiac should be used, what's right, what's wrong, anything along those lines. You can find evidence for either approach, and people can argue a month of Sundays. Guess what? It doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't. Okay. So I know you may not have been saying that from that perspective, dear friend, but I just wanted to kind of put that across. Okay. So I wanted to say, we were talking about fear. We were talking about fear, and so we can either at this particular point become controlled by our fear or be controlled by other people's fear. And if you're a sensitive person, when there's a lot of people out there that are feeling fear, it's very easy for you to feel it as well, even if it's not your own. Or we can remember why we're here, right? We can remember why we're here. We are the people who create the change. You are the people who create the change, right? But we have to step into our fullness and not live in our fear, right? And I think this eclipse was waking up a lot of people to that. I've noticed so many people making radical changes in their lives in regards to what they'll accept and what they will no longer accept. And I encourage you to do the same. So thanks a lot, everybody, for watching today. And as always, please do take the very best care of yourself. And I'll talk to everybody as soon as I can. Bye now.